Shudder Sundays, episode 36. This week, we're going into 2010, 2011-ish, we'll get to the release dates, but thriller Yellowbrickroad.
You hear about Friar, New Hampshire, that old road. What you're asking for, there are certainly those who would prefer you didn't have it.
There's no place like home.
Like I said, Yellowbrickroad is sort of in that thriller mystery realm, yes. I guess. Very kind of indie feel. Mm-hmm. The reason why I said 2010, 2011-ish, because for the release, I have a couple different things. So it did release at Slam Dance Film Festival in January 23rd of 2010. And then it kind of went on a little U.S. screening tour throughout 2010. And then there was a U.S. limited release, June 1st, 2011. And then it finally came out on DVD, August 2nd, 2011. So shortly after the limited theatrical run. This was directed by Jesse Holland. This is his directorial debut. He went on to do We Go On and The Crooked Man. And it was also directed by Andy Mitten, who tag-teamed We Go On with Jesse Holland. This is starring Michael Lorino as Teddy, who kind of served as the leader of the group and the co-author of the book. Anessa Ramsey as Melissa, who was also the co-author, who was in, I believe it was, I don't know what year, maybe 2007, but it was in The Signal. I think this was a smaller-ish film, but a very good one. Alex Draper as Walter, the psychologist. Cassidy Freeman as Erin, the cartographer. Do you have any idea where we have seen her recently?
That's Daryl's sister, right? The blonde girl?
The
one who does all the
mappings,
yes.
Yeah. Do you know where we've seen her? Because I had no idea, and then once I looked it up, I was like, oh my god, that is her.
No, who is it?
It's Amber in The Righteous Gemstones.
Really?
Danny McBride's wife in The Righteous Gemstones.
That's so fun. I mean, this is an older movie, so obviously it's been a while, and
she went on to
wouldn't even recognize her. That's so funny.
But if you go back, you will see it.
I mean, I have to look at it after this episode.
You can see it 100% now. Clark Freeman as Daryl, the other cartographer, and then Tara Giordano as Jill, the intern. Mm-hmm. Bigger cast, but why don't you give a little rundown of Yellowbrickroad for us?
Teddy Barnes and his wife Melissa, along with their colleagues, venture out to find the truth about how the small town of Friar, New Hampshire, seamlessly disappeared after walking north on an abandoned path called Yellowbrickroad.
Shudder skull rating. Where did this land on Shudder?
Last time I looked, I think it had a 3 skull rating.
That's what I have on my notes, 3.5. Now, did you look at Rotten Tomatoes at all for
I
this?
did not look at any Rotten Tomatoes for this, actually. Good. I know.
So, I don't think you're going to be too happy.
I figured I would
Rotten Tomatoes scores, critics. What do you think the critic score for Yellowbrickroad is?
Probably like a 34%.
47%.
Okay, better than I expected. I kind of lowballed myself.
Okay, now the audience. What do you think the audience is?
34% again.
30%.
30%.
Even lower.
I kind of figured.
People didn't like this.
People, you know what? It seems like that's a trend with the films that I pick, is that people don't really like it.
Like this one.
No.
A couple little bullet points of things that I made note of, for better or worse. I'm quoting here, okay? So don't get mad in the comments of what I'm going to say, but this is a quote from the movie.
I'm kind of nervous.
Are you like a retarded hiker or something? You're at a movie theater. I was like, well, that's about fitting for New England. This is an earlier movie, so they kind of got away with things like that. But this was a quote from the movie, and I was, like you said, it takes place in New Hampshire. I was like, yeah, that makes sense for New Hampshire. That's for the 2010s. Yeah,
I was just going to say, for the
box.
2010s, that sounds pretty accurate.
That checks the box. They were trying to find the trailhead, so like the start of the trail.
Yes. And
it brought them to the movie theater. Mm-hmm. Like, why did they go into the movie theater thinking they were just going to find, like, a dirt road that led... Like, why would you even go in and be like, hey, we're looking for the trailhead? Like, it's clearly not in a building.
What are you talking about?
To start the movie, they used the GPS tracker to find, like, where the trail was, based off of the coordinates, and it starts at the movie theater.
Oh, really? Maybe I missed that. And I've seen this movie a lot. Maybe I missed that part, because Teddy goes to kind of, like, the movie theater, but it's, like, set up like a different, like... Well... kind of auditorium setting, I guess, at the beginning, where he finds the files for New Hampshire and stuff.
Well, that's where they first, maybe I'm wrong, but when they first got to the town, that first interaction at the movie theater, it's because they're like, no, the trail starts here. This is what the GPS says.
Okay.
According to this, the trailhead's right here.
Yes.
And then
I
they
know
go
what
into
you're
the
talking
movie
about
theater.
now.
Like, did you think there was like a dirt road in the movie theater?
I do recall what you're talking about now because they do. Yes. Okay. Sorry, I was thinking of the other intro part.
A little bizarre.
But yeah, a lot of this, as much as I do like this movie, it did make me question a lot of things that they chose and
Yeah.
decided to do.
Like I obviously things have happened. The towns have been built up. So like I could see being like, oh well, the trail would have started here before this building was put in place. But no, they go inside and they're like, is the trail here? Like, no, the trail's not inside the movie theater.
Funny enough, the movie theater may come play place in the later.
There was a good little jump scare with D and his hat. That was fun. There was this little like party montage with like the photos. Pretty interesting.
I liked
didn't mind
that.
it.
I liked that scene
It was
a lot.
a little out of place. Just bizarre.
It was. It kind of didn't really fit the vibe of the film, but I liked it. It was kind of like different, like Polaroid looking like snapshots or like film camera looking snapshots, montaged and clipped together as they're like around the campfire, like having fun drinking with,
Something. Yeah.
something.
I would have liked a little bit more time in Friar in the town, kind of learning the history of this because they don't really. That's the problem with this. We'll get into the bad, but I feel like it brings up a lot of really cool topics and doesn't really fully bring it home on everything. The town of Friar being one that I would have liked to have spent more time in the town and like interacting with townsfolk and seeing that they don't like people talking about this history. Add to that mysteriousness. Like, why aren't they talking? Well, don't just say people aren't talking to you. Show me people not talking to you.
This movie kind of leaves off with a lot of interpretation, not only with the ending, but with how you're describing too, just with like about the town of Friar and like describing the townspeople. And there's certain parts in the film where they're talking, they're like, oh, if you're from Friar, like, you know why they went on that trail and why they went looking what they went looking for. And it's like, but I don't know. Tell me.
So just show me
Tell
or
me.
tell me or something, whatever. When they are on the trek, it's like day 3 and Walter already wanted to call it quits. Kind of a bitch move.
Not a bitch
He wanted
move.
he wanted to write the book on this.
He did, and he was the smartest one out of all of them, Walter, ultimately.
Should have kept.
Yeah.
It just
I mean, Teddy.
you
I
get
feel like it was a big part with Teddy and Melissa who wanted to write it as well.
Yeah, you get a 6-person crew, like you're all geared up, and it's like day 3, and you're like, time to call it quits.
Yeah, mind you, they started hearing creepy 40s and 50s music playing throughout the middle of this desolate forest out of nowhere, and we're trying to figure out what this could have been coming from and coming up with scenarios or situations, and they couldn't, so that would kind of put me off a little bit too. But
We mentioned one of the characters as sort of the intern. I don't get why she was there.
Jill, the intern.
She's pretty useless. In a cast that's already fairly bloated, I think you could have probably done without the intern character.
Mm-hmm.
It felt a little like they just wanted this person in there. I don't know if these were all like a group of friends that made this movie or not, and they were like, oh yeah, we'll put her in. I would have just kind of omitted that character. It seemed like a little bloated already, so we'll skip all that. But let's get into our topics, and we can kind of discuss some more stuff a little bit more in depth, though. The good. What did you have for good of Yellowbrickroad?
As I'd previously mentioned, for the good, well, not for the good that I mentioned, but the creepy, like, 40s, 50s music that plays throughout the forest, I absolutely love it.
I texted Jill first thing this morning. I asked her for her earliest childhood memory. She told me it was standing at the trailhead to Yellowbrickroad.
First of all, I think this is a really cool concept and storyline for a movie in general. I mean, it's interesting. It kind of dives into, how do you explain it? It's more of like a psychological thriller mystery with some really good horror elements as well depicted throughout, and I feel like it meshed really well together. Nick might think otherwise than me, but I didn't think the acting was bad, personally.
I didn't put acting in bad. I didn't put it in good either. I didn't really touch upon it. I don't think it was bad.
I like the acting.
was
I
fine.
feel like certain characters were very like sentimental in their roles. There's a specific scene where Teddy is like talking over the radio to Melissa when they get separated, trying to talk to her, but like it goes back and forth and they can't hear one another and all this kind of stuff. And then Clark Freeman, I think is his name, who plays Daryl.
Yeah, yes.
Yes, so I'm familiar with his acting as well. The other film that Jesse Holland and Andy Mitten did, I actually reviewed that for the website that I write for. Even in this role too, he plays that like very like not psychopathic character, but just kind of like crazy, like over the top, kind of like zany, I guess. And he was very like that in We Go On too. And I feel like a lot of these people were kind of like smaller names, but still have come up to do some other things, which is fun. I like the setting of this too. I think it was really cool. It was mostly shot all in the woods. I'm not sure if this was actually shot somewhere in New Hampshire. I should have looked it up maybe.
Yeah,
but I would assume, I mean, it could look like New Hampshire. I've only been there
woods.
once, so yeah.
It's it could be any state really. It's
Right.
some hills and woods. So
There was a lot of things I liked about this though, collectively, but what were some of yours?
like I said, I didn't mention acting. I don't know if it stood out as necessarily really good, but it wasn't in the bad. So it was,
For an indie film and for the year it came out and this being one of their more like directorial debuts, I thought it was pretty well done.
yeah, it was fine. I put the premise is good. I like that it's a pretty original, fun take. The whole the mystery behind Fryer, New Hampshire. All these people got up and walked down the road and never to be seen, and we found some bodies frozen and some dead and one lone survivor. Why did they do this? That's pretty cool. They didn't necessarily hit everything home for me with it, but just as a starting point, that premise is pretty interesting. I put, I know this, I always think back and I'm like, this is a found footage movie. And so it's really not. But I think that it very well could have been a found footage, but I think they did want to kind of differentiate themselves from Blair Witch Project because it is
I could see that.
similar. And I think if they did full found footage, it would have kind of come off too copycatty. Even though the idea is much different, the actual movie is not that different. They're really just kind of in the woods and like doing daily check-ins. It's almost like Blair Witch with a little bit of that paranormal activity because it's that like day 1, day 2, day 3, here's the check-in. But the found footage, if they, what we did get of the found footage, it makes sense as to why we do. Oh, this documentary crew went out there, they all died or whatever, and now somebody found the tapes and pieced it together. That makes sense. The scarecrow imagery came out pretty cool. I liked it. I wish it played a little bit of a bigger role. I mean, that is like the DVD cover, the poster, and it's like just one quick little scene, and there's really... They don't even make note of it. They like see it, and they're like kind of scared of it, but they're not like, my God, what is this? It's a scarecrow. Like, they just kind of like... It's there. That's it.
Kind of the theme for a couple different scenes with that as well, that they kind of just ignored the fact of what was going on. And I'm not sure, maybe that was meant to be intentional because the woods was driving them mad. But the girl on the scarecrow was Daryl's sister.
The one that got, she got like cut in the face. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, they were all flabbergasted, but I'm glad you mentioned that scene too because I wanted to bring it up as well. But this was the scene in where that the music in the forest starts getting like very like loud and brooding and different like cutting in like the record like scratching and cutting out and stuff like that, and so they're kind of like disoriented and like stumble upon her and find her like that, so maybe that's why the reaction wasn't as much, but I like that too.
And then the music aspect, I thought that was a really fun thing to play with. It adds to the madness as to maybe why they're going so crazy, but I liked that. And again, I feel like all of my good I also sort of will talk about in the bad. So do you have any more good?
A lot of these are more just like scenes that I really enjoyed for the good, so kind of went over my good already. Yeah.
All right, so we'll get into it then. The bad. What did you have for the bad of Yellowbrickroad?
I kind of wish they would have. You had mentioned it previously already, but I do wish that they went into more detail about Fryer, New Hampshire, and why these people disappeared and what was luring them out there, and the kind of backstory behind that, because it would have just added that extra element to make this like the perfect film for me. I really like this one. Like Nick said, it was an original storyline. It was a different take. I really like it. I don't want to talk about it too much because it's probably going to go in my what I would change category as well, but I'll just say that the ending was a bit too confusing for me. But in my recent days coming up to Shudder Sunday, I have been thinking about a way to interpret this ending, and I think I do have it. So what were some of your bads? Because I'll talk about that later.
The bad, I had the pacing I did not like of this film.
Really?
I thought that it went from, like, they're all normal to they're all crazy way too fast.
You didn't like that.
I think you needed to kind of stretch the, if this is the craziness, you need to, pull it out. So it's not like, day 3 they're normal, and then day 4 they're all crazy murdering. Like
this would have been like a 5-hour long movie though if they were to extend it out like that. Like you can't just have, and then it would have been crappy too if they would have been like day 2 and then day 6 and they skipped all these days in between.
Yeah, well, I think that's a smart way to do it, where like you can kind of do small little snippets of madness instead of going from like normal conversation party to the next day, one of them is getting murdered by the other one because of a hat.
Because I really enjoyed that, and
No,
it really
it took away.
It kept me interested.
See, it did. I would have been more interested waiting for that. Like, when's it gonna snap?
Mm-hmm.
When is that stick gonna break? And gradually get me there. Don't just like 0 to 60. I thought there was too many characters. I think that this was, like I said earlier, a bloated cast. I think you could have snipped it down. I mean, you don't really need 2 cartographers. You don't really need 2 co-authors. Author, psychiatrist, cartographer, and then your kind of huntsman guy.
It was a big cast.
Yeah, and one of them could have doubled as your videographer. Like, you could have just done 4 and called it, but there was like 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah,
I think
so. It was a big cast, but I've seen this a couple times, so maybe that's why I'm like, I know who the people are. But that usually is a kind of deterring point for me.
The in-depth storytelling wasn't there for me. Like I said, I like the premise. The premise as a whole is cool. We talked about it. But it's like those other moments, like you said, you wanted to be more time in Friar to understand why they did. It was a cool surface level idea, but I feel like it didn't get dug into deep enough. And we don't get a lot of these answers, which is kind of annoying because it's a very fun starting point and a cool concept, but we don't get much more other than that. It's very surface level. And I really wanted to, I wanted to understand, why did they walk? Like, and we don't know. And
we'll
then
never know.
And then people just start like killing themselves and jumping off cliffs.
I've
and
been
like,
waiting years to know.
people hiding in caves, and then it's like, what the fuck is happening? Is it because of the music? Well, where's the music coming from?
Jesse
I don't
Holland
fucking know.
And Andy Mitten, if you ever watch this, I would love to interview you to find out where they went.
It's just, like, and like the music too. Like, where's that? Why? Where is it coming from? Who's playing it? Why is it playing?
I know.
Why is it Wizard of Oz? Why
Is it coming from the theater?
We don't know. We don't know. We didn't get any of those answers. We didn't get the answers from the townspeople. And then, like you said, the ending. I thought the ending fell flat. Like, now all of a sudden it's kind of like a ghost story.
So do you want to hear how I try to interpret my ending?
Yeah.
So at the end, he's like, enjoy your picture show, Mr. Barnes. Or at the beginning, he says it too. And it's the same guy at the beginning who gives him the files on Friar, New Hampshire. That is the same usher at the movie theater at the end who takes him into the theater. I was under the impression that this is what happened, and this is because they wanted to make this book or this documentary or this film, and this is they were being filmed this whole time. Like, now he's getting to watch his film, and maybe he didn't make it and he's dead, and that's where they end up, is at the theater, because he actually didn't make it out of the trail. It was a very confused ending, but I was trying to interpret it in that way as, like, this is what you get for wanting to come out here and try to find answers to things that shouldn't be asked, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Like a ghost town, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, yeah.
I don't know. But either way, that was my bad. Did you have any other bad, or we can move along now?
We can move on, yeah.
So, top moment. What was your top moment of Yellowbrickroad?
This movie has more top moments than I think any movie that we've done for Shudder Sunday. For me, at least.
Hit me with it.
One of my favorite scenes always, and I say this to everyone that I try to tell to watch Yellowbrickroad, when Jill, the intern, after the night before, she eats their stash of candy. At this point, it's just her, Teddy, and Melissa, and I think Walter eats the stash of candy. They're pissed. They're not talking to her, and she's like, I'm sorry, I was hungry. And then it's like just like her walking, and they kind of pan out and do like a wide shot, and she just walks off the side of the cliff and kills herself, and no one says anything or
nobody mentions it. Nobody's like, oh, Jill died.
No one even brings it up. Like, where'd she go? Like, how did they not hear her?
That pissed me off.
It did piss you off, but I thought it was a really kind of like chilling scene without needing much, because it just kind of like cut and went to the next thing, and I was like, dang, that was like weird.
Like her jumping off like so small and quick was cool, but like the fact that nobody even brought her up after the fact was like,
yeah.
What? Like,
I know.
I feel like it was just like they were kind of writing the script as they go, and they're like, oh fuck, we didn't talk about Jill. She jumped off a cliff. Like, whatever.
When Liv snaps Sai's neck.
Okay, yeah.
That was crazy. So in the middle of the woods, they take all these crazy berries that like make them hallucinate and stuff like that, and like Sai starts telling her that he's like, I can tell that I'm going to start going, I'm starting to go crazy, and I'm going to end up killing you, so you have to kill me first. And she's like, in her stupid New England accent, I'm like, what do you want me to do, stab you?
I took it, I didn't think it was him saying he's going to go crazy. I thought he was looking at it as like a survival standpoint. He's going to have to kill her and eat her to survive.
Oh, no, because remember he said he was like, I think I'm starting to end up like Daryl, I want to kill.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Yeah.
I thought he was, because he was the survival man.
He was like the...
And like they were talking about like catching squirrels and eating them.
Oh, the chipmunks.
The chipmunks. I thought he was saying he was going to have to kill her and eat her to survive.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
In the wilderness because they were lost. Oh, okay. So maybe it was just because he thought he was going
Maybe
crazy.
you could be, maybe I could be wrong. But either way, she ends up walking off for a while. He falls asleep. She comes back, wakes him up as he's like tied to the ground and like sits him up and he's like, no, don't. And she like twists his neck once and you can like hear the crack. And then she like does it again and it's just... And I just thought that was, ugh, I don't know. I don't like the neck snapping thing always creeps me out. When Daryl kills his sister, the cartographer people.
They were just, because she wanted him to take the hat off.
Because she wanted him to take the hat off because the hat was obviously bringing the bad energy. It was haunted. It was from one of the people of Friar, New Hampshire that mysteriously lost it on the trail.
Which I wish we got more into the hat.
I do too. And I think maybe the hat is what made them start going crazy, that the spirit could have been lingering with the hat. Don't know. Anyways... They ended up arguing about one of the schematics or coordinates they were trying to get, and they get into a brawl, and he ends up, like, chopping her leg off and, like, smashing it with a rock, like, bludgeoning it, like, from the knee down, and then, like, ripping her leg off. And they're, like, watching through the binoculars as they're doing it, and they're, like, and they're just, they're not even running at first. Anything. They're just, like, shocked. I mean, they obviously go over there afterwards, but one more scene.
Okay. Your top moments, I guess.
Know, yeah. This was supposed to be a quick episode. Sorry, Nick. Towards the end of the film, when the woods starts calling out to Walter and the song's like, Walter, Walter. Yeah. That was a good one, too. Cool. Mm-hmm.
I just put the top moment was finding that giant briar wall with the scarecrow.
That was a good one, too.
That was kind of the climax for me. Mm-hmm. After that, it kind of fell off because I didn't really say much after that, but that was my top moment. Mm-hmm. So what would you change about Yellow Brick Road?
I would definitely change the ending. I feel like this movie kept me going the whole time. I know you said the pacing was kind of tough for you, but I feel like it was back and forth, kind of like you said, to normalcy, to kind of like a crazy moment. And that's why I had so many top moments. I feel like it was so sporadic and spread out. But I feel like the ending was just kind of abrupt and kind of bleak for me. It left me with more questions than answers. I like that they brought in the usher guy, as I mentioned, was the guy from the beginning of the movie. That kind of ties in and stuff like that. But it still just doesn't make any sense for me. And I've tried to piece it together and I still cannot. And I feel like that just kind of put a damper on what could have been a really, really good movie for me. And like we said earlier, too, wish we would have gone into more detail about the people of Friar.
Yeah, that's the thing that pisses me off about movies when they're kind of like this, really cool premise, and then they just don't hit it home. It was like, you kind of did the hardest part. Like, you came up with a pretty unique concept, which is actually a lot harder than people think. And then you just didn't, like, spend more time diving into that. Mm-hmm. What would you change other than kind of, like, answering the questions and being at Friar more? What I would have done, I said, I put, make the cast smaller, and this is something we haven't hit upon yet. I would have modeled their characteristics around the Wizard of Oz characters, because we call it Yellow Brick Road and we don't talk about Wizard of Oz at all. It's the audio that plays like over songs from it, and maybe you can't with copyright stuff. Obviously you don't have to reference it, but like just like the
only thing was really the Scarecrow.
Yeah, which model your main Trek characters after them. Like your leader is Dorothy, and then you have some character that represents the heart of the group, and then somebody represents courage, and then somebody represents brains, kind of like, Lion, Tin Man, Scarecrow. Model the characters after that subtly, but enough that at the end you can look at it and go back and be like, I see the Wizard of Oz connection now. And make kind of, you don't have to make literally Yellow Brick Road, but like you could play with that with the trail. Like it could be like Yellow Flowers or, something like that. Like, if you're going to call a movie Yellow Brick Road and have a scarecrow on the poster, like, you need to do a little bit more with that theming, I think.
I kind of like that it wasn't too Wizard of Oz-y.
I don't.
I feel like it would have just been a rip-off off the Wizard of Oz then, if that was the case. It would have just been interpreting the Wizard of Oz or using these tropes that we've already had, but even though it's a different name, we didn't mention it either, but the part where the Scarecrow was and Teddy looks over into the field and sees the long yellow brick road he has to get to, I think that was kind of them referencing. And I mean, if you think about it, if you look at all the different characters, you kind of could put two and two together with characters lining them up.
Well, kind of, not really though. Nobody really stood out significantly as one more so than others. They were all fairly just neutral characters. That's why I said, like, limit it. Get it down to the four. Kind of mimic them towards the characters of the Wizard of Oz. So I think that would have been a better way to tie in the theming of that, at least. And then other than that, like I said, give us more of the town before the trek. Work on the pacing and kind of spread out the spiraling, so that way it kind of makes a little bit more sense. I'm trying to think of other stuff, but back to like Paranormal Activity, like that slow decay of like Mika, like how Mika's slowly, they're going crazy and crazy, but over a longer period of time.
Nick also loves Paranormal Activity.
It's a great movie. I
wouldn't say it's a great movie.
It's an amazing movie. You're in the minority on that.
It's not bad.
No, it's a great movie. It's probably one of the best found footage movies of all time.
Oh, that's a tough take.
It's not. That's a pretty.
That's a tough take.
It's
recognized. Blair Witch?
It's up there.
No, that's.
It's up there.
Okay.
I mean, it's definitely the most profitable of all time. That's for sure. So, who is this for? Who would you suggest watch Yellow Brick Road?
I think this is for anyone who likes indie psychological thrillers with elements of horror and yeah.
It's very backwoodsy, low budget. Mm-hmm. It's a subpar Blair Witch. So if you'd enjoyed Blair Witch and kind of like that, wooded, almost folklore-y horror, give it a shot, that's for sure. So let's get into our ratings, our fear and beer rating. A fear 1 through 5 of how scary this film was, and a beer rating of 1 through 5 of how much you enjoyed this film. So what was your fear rating for Yellow Brick Road?
I gave this a 3 for the fear rating.
I gave it a 2. Mm-hmm. It's not, empty of scares. The atmosphere plays into it. It's definitely unsettling at times. There's really only like 1 or 2 like little scary moments. Like I said, the scene, I forget, I think his name was D or something like that, but when he was wearing, the first time he found the hat. Daryl. He had the hat on, and he was standing in the back, and he was sort of like silhouette-y.
That was scary.
That's a really scary point. It's really cool, because they're like, oh, what the fuck is that? Who is that? And it's just silence. And then he's like, ah, and he like jumps towards them as like a jokey thing.
We didn't even bring it up either when he's hiding in the cave behind Melissa, and she's talking like on the radio, and she I can't even talk because it was such a crazy scene. He's like, and I'm right here behind you in this cave. And she like looks, and then she's like, are you gonna kill me? He's like, yeah. And then he like runs out after her. That was creepy too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's some scares there for sure. So your beer rating, how much did you enjoy this? What did you give Yellow Brick Road for your beer rating?
Yellow Brick Road gets a good old 4 beers for me.
4 beers.
Yes.
I gave it 2.5. I think it's right in the middle. It's an average.
I knew you wouldn't like this movie, and I was really hoping you would, because I've liked this movie for quite a couple years. I saw it quite some time ago, and I was very happy to see that Shudder put it back on here. But that's okay, because that's why we do these Shudder Sundays.
Yeah, it's fine.
To see different movies.
It's fine.
Stuff.
I wish they hit it home, because it's pretty close to being like, if they had spent 10 more minutes in Friar and actually answered some of these questions, I'd have it in that 4 to 4.5 category for me.
And I'm actually quite surprised, because honestly, you liked this more than I thought you would.
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought you would absolutely, safe to say, shit on this one.
No, it's I think it's perfectly in the middle.
Yeah.
It's not overly scary, but again, there's just too many unanswered questions, and the questions that they kind of propose are really cool, and it's a fun concept. So I'd say give it a shot, but don't plan on being super, super full and satisfied at the end of this. But that is Shudder Sundays for this week. Next week, we will be back with another Jamie favorite. It's clear that she picked this month. Dead Silence. Back on Shudder as of this month. So we're going to dive into that a little bit. But until next time, we'll see you then.